The sound came first. Sharp. Vicious. The kind of crack that makes your stomach drop even if you're not the one being hit. Skin against skin. Then silence. The kind of silence that feels like the whole world just stopped breathing. Inside Lotus House, the most exclusive Korean fine dining restaurant in Manhattan, everything froze. 53 of New York's wealthiest, most powerful people sat motionless. Forks suspended in midair. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the piano player in the corner stopped, fingers hovering above the keys. All because Yoona Park's hand, covered in diamonds that cost more than most people's cars, had just connected with Mara Thompson's face. Hard. So hard that the 3 servers standing near the kitchen doors actually flinched like they'd felt it too. The sound bounced off the imported marble walls. It slid across the hand-painted silk screens worth more than a year of college tuition. It touched every single person in that room, and everybody froze. But it wasn't just the slap that made everyone stop breathing. It was what Yoona screamed next. Thief. Her voice cut through the restaurant like broken glass. Sharp. Deliberate. Designed to wound. After everything I did for you, you stole from me. Mara's hand flew to her throat. Empty. The jade and silver necklace, the one that had hung there every single day for 6 months, the one she touched every morning before leaving for work, the one that connected 4 generations of her family, was gone. Ripped away. Clutched now in Yoona's perfectly manicured fingers, held high like evidence at a trial. 2 years ago, Yoona's voice rose even louder, making absolutely sure every person in that restaurant could hear, I welcomed this woman into my home. I hired her as my personal maid. I trusted her. She turned in a slow circle, making eye contact with the watching crowd, playing to them like an actress on stage. And this is how she repaid me. By stealing from my jewelry box. This necklace, she held it higher, letting the jade catch the light, was a gift from Mr. Kang himself. When it went missing, I reported it to him immediately. He had it added to his company's official stolen property list. The room erupted in whispers. Gasps. The kind of shocked murmuring that happens when scandal touches people who are supposed to be above such things. And now, Yoona's eyes glittered with triumph. I find out she's been working here, in Mr. Kang's own restaurant, wearing MY's stolen necklace right under his nose for 6 months. Mara's cheek burned. Her face felt like it was on fire. She could taste blood, copper and sharp, where she'd bitten the inside of her lip from the impact. But worse than the physical pain, worse than the humiliation, was the sick realization crawling up her spine. 2 years ago. Yes, she had worked for Yoona Park. For 8 months, she'd been the woman's personal maid in her Upper East Side penthouse. Cleaning, organizing, running errands. It had paid well, better than anything else Mara could find while taking care of Mama Grace who was already getting sick. But she'd left that job because Yoona was cruel. Not obviously, not in ways you could point to and say, that's abuse. Just small cruelties. Comments about Mara's hair, her clothes, her accent, even though Mara had lived in Brooklyn her whole life. The way Yoona would make her redo tasks that were already perfect. The way she'd forget to pay on time, then act surprised when Mara brought it up. Mara had quit after Yoona threw a glass of wine at her for folding towels wrong. And now Yoona was claiming that necklace, the one Mama Grace had pressed into her palm 6 months ago with shaking hands, had been stolen from her. That's not true, Mara said. Her voice came out steady, surprisingly steady, despite the way her hands were shaking at her sides. I never stole anything from you, Mississippi Park. That necklace belonged to my great-great-grandmother. It's been in my family for 4 generations. Liar. Yoona's face twisted with pure hatred. The kind of hatred that's been building for months, waiting for the perfect moment to explode. You think anyone here is going to believe a maid's grandmother owned a $73,000 heirloom? Please. She turned to the host stand where Robert Hayes stood frozen, his face pale as snow. Robert. Yoona snapped. You have the documentation, don't you? Mr. Kang's official stolen items list. Show them. Robert's hands trembled as he reached under the host's stand and pulled out a leather folder. He'd been managing Lotus House for 18 years. 18 years. And in all that time, he'd never seen anything like this. Mississippi Park, perhaps we should wait for Mr. Kang Toa. Show them. Now. Robert opened the folder with shaking fingers. Inside was a printed list on official Kang Industries letterhead. His eyes scanned down the page, and his face went even paler. Item 247, he read quietly. Jade and silver necklace. African and Korean symbolic carvings. Reported missing from Miss Yuna Park's residence, March 15th, 2 years ago. Estimated value, $73,000. Status, stolen. The whispers grew louder. Mara felt the floor tilt under her feet. March 15th. 2 years ago. That was 3 months before she quit working for Yuna. 3 months before Mama Grace got her diagnosis. A lifetime ago. I didn't take that necklace, Mara said, but her voice was getting quieter now. Because what did it matter what she said? She was a maid. A nobody from Brooklyn. And they had documentation. Official documentation. From Kang Joon's own company. Robert, Yuna's voice was sharp as a blade. Call security. Call the police. I want this thief arrested. Across the restaurant, in the private corner booth that was always reserved, always empty except for one man, Kang Joon had gone completely still. For 7 years, the man they called the Ice King had never shown real emotion in public. Not once. His face was always the same, cold, blank, unreadable as stone. Business partners said having a meeting with him was like negotiating with a glacier. Enemies said looking into his eyes was like staring into winter itself. But right now, in this moment, Kang Joon set down his glass of soju. The crystal touched the table with a soft click. That small sound, that tiny noise, somehow carried through the entire silent restaurant. His steel-gray eyes lifted. Fixed on Yuna Park standing in the center of the dining room, diamonds glittering, chest heaving with rage, holding that jade and silver necklace like a trophy. Then those eyes moved to Mara. Took in the bruise already blooming purple on her dark skin. The slight swelling near her eye. The way she stood perfectly straight despite having just been struck. The way her hand had moved to her now empty throat, fingers searching for something that was no longer there. And something flickered in Kang Joon's eyes. Something no one in that restaurant had ever seen before. His bodyguard, Taemin, a man who'd worked for Joon for 12 years, actually took a step back. Because in all those years, through gang wars and business betrayals and threats that would make most men break, he'd never, not once, seen that look on his boss's face. It was the look of a man who'd just watched something precious be broken. And was deciding exactly how much it would cost to fix it. But Mara didn't notice any of that. She was too focused on trying to breathe. Too focused on the memory of Mama Grace's last words. This is our strength. Your great-great-grandmother got this from a Korean merchant who helped her when nobody else would. Back in 1891, when the world was even harder for women like us. He gave her this necklace and told her, strength recognizes strength. You wear this and remember, we survive. Mara had worn it every single day since Mama Grace died. 6 months. Every single day. And Kang Joon had seen her. She knew he had. The restaurant owner didn't miss anything. He noticed when a fork was placed wrong, when a glass had a smudge, when a server's uniform wasn't perfectly pressed. He'd definitely noticed a $73,000 stolen necklace being worn by one of his maids. Which meant he'd known all along. Mara's eyes found Kang Joon across the restaurant. Their gazes met and locked. And for just a second, just one terrible second, Mara felt something crack in her chest. Because if that necklace really was on his stolen items list, if it really had been reported missing 2 years ago, then there was only one possibility. He'd been testing her. Watching to see what she'd do. waiting to see if she'd confess, or run, or try to sell it. Or maybe he'd been setting her up all along. The security guards closed in. 3 of them, big men in black suits with earpieces and hard faces. "Miss," the lead guard said, his voice not unkind but firm. "We need you to come with us. Don't make this difficult." "I didn't steal anything," Mara said, but even she could hear how weak it sounded now. "I can explain." "Save it for the police," Yuna interrupted, her smile cold and satisfied. "Robert, did you call them?" "Yes. They're on their way." In the distance, sirens began to wail. Getting closer. Mara's hands trembled. Her whole body started to shake. Not from fear, exactly. From the sudden, crushing weight of understanding. Here's what nobody in that restaurant knew. Mara Thompson was 26 years old and already drowning. Her parents had died when she was 19. Car accident on the Cross Bronx Expressway. A delivery truck ran a red light on a rainy Tuesday morning, and just like that, everything changed. One minute she was a college freshman with dreams of becoming a teacher. The next minute she was standing in a funeral home trying to figure out how to pay for 2 caskets with a bank account that had $247 in it. Her grandmother had stepped in. Mama Grace, everyone called her. Took Mara and her baby brother Isaiah into her small Brooklyn apartment without a second thought. Raised them with love and church services and Sunday dinners that somehow made everything feel okay, even when it wasn't. But 6 months ago, Mama Grace got sick. Cancer. The kind that moves fast and doesn't care about your plans or your prayers or how many people love you. She died holding Mara's hand, that jade and silver necklace pressed between their palms. "This is our strength," Mama Grace had whispered, her voice weak but firm. "Your great-great-grandmother got this from a Korean merchant who helped her when nobody else would. Back in 1891, when the world was even harder for women like us. He gave her this necklace and told her, strength recognizes strength. You wear this and remember, we survive." Those were the last words Mama Grace ever spoke. And she left behind $92,000 in medical debt. $92,000. The number haunted Mara every single night. Lived in her chest like a weight she couldn't shake. And it wasn't just the debt. There was Isaiah. Her little brother was 13 now. Born deaf. Smart as anybody you'd ever meet, funny, kind, with a smile that could light up a whole room. But he needed a special school. A place that could teach him properly. Teachers who knew sign language. Programs designed for deaf students. It cost $4,800 every single month. So Mara worked. Double shifts at Lotus House, sometimes triple. 16-hour days were normal. 4 hours of sleep if she was lucky. She hadn't bought herself new shoes in 2 years. Every single dollar went to Isaiah's school or Mama Grace's debt or the rent on their tiny Brooklyn apartment. But she never complained. Not once. Because that's not who she was. That's not what Mama Grace had taught her. And now, standing in the middle of Lotus House with security guards closing in and sirens getting louder and 53 people staring at her like she was dirt, Mara Thompson touched her empty throat and whispered a prayer. Just like Mama Grace had taught her. "Give me strength." The restaurant doors burst open. 2 NYPD officers walked in, hands resting on their belts, eyes scanning the room with professional efficiency. "Who called about a theft?" the first officer asked. "I did." Yuna stepped forward, playing the part of concerned citizen and wounded victim perfectly. "This woman used to work for me. As my personal maid. 2 years ago, a valuable necklace went missing from my home. A gift from my boyfriend at the time." She gestured elegantly toward Kang Joon's booth. Mr. Kang had it added to his company's official stolen property list. She held up the necklace, jade glinting in the light. "Tonight, I discovered she's been working here, in Mr. Kang's own restaurant, wearing MY's stolen necklace. For 6 months. Right under his nose." The second officer looked at Mara, his expression neutral but his eyes hard. Ma'am, is this true? Did you work for Mississippi Park 2 years ago? Yes, Buta. And did you have access to her personal belongings? Her bedroom? I was her maid, so yes, but I never. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with us. We can sort this out at the station. I didn't steal anything, Mara said, but her voice was breaking now. That necklace belonged to my great-great-grandmother. My grandmother gave it to me before she died. I can prove it. I have documentation. Letters. Photosa. Then you can show us all of that downtown, the officer said. He pulled out handcuffs. Please turn around. Mara's eyes went wide. Wait. Please. I have a brother. He's 13. He's deaf. He needs me. If I get arrested, if I have a recorder. You should have thought about that before you stole from your employer, Yuna said coldly. The officer reached for Mara's wrist. That's when Kang Joon stood up. The entire restaurant went silent again. Different this time. Heavier. Like the air itself had changed. Because Kang Joon didn't stand up. Not for anyone. Not for meetings with mayors or deals with billionaires or threats from rival gangs. But he was standing now. And he was walking toward them. Slow. Deliberate. Each footstep echoing through the silent restaurant like a countdown. Taemin followed 3 steps behind, his hand moving instinctively toward the inside of his jacket where Mara knew he kept a gun. Yuna's triumphant smile faltered. Just for a second. Then she forced it back, turning to face Joon with her chin high and her eyes soft. Joon, she said, her voice gentle now, almost tender. I'm so sorry you had to witness this. I know it must be difficult to discover that someone you trusted, someone you gave a job to, was the same person who stole from me. From us. She said, us, like they were still together. Like the last 6 months of separation hadn't happened. Kang Joon stopped 3 feet away from Mara. His eyes swept over her bruised face. The trembling in her hands that she was trying so hard to hide. The way she stood with her shoulders back and her head high despite everything. Then his gaze dropped to her empty throat. To the place where the necklace should have been. Officer, he said quietly. His voice was soft, but somehow it carried through the entire restaurant. Put the handcuffs away. The restaurant held its breath. The officer's hand stopped mid-reach. He looked up at Kang Joon, then at his partner, uncertain. Everyone in New York law enforcement knew who Kang Joon was. Not officially, of course. Nothing was ever official with men like him. But they knew. You didn't build an empire the size of Kong Industries, didn't own half the luxury real estate in Manhattan, didn't have politicians and judges on your private phone line, without certain understandings with law enforcement. Sir, the first officer said carefully, we have a report of stolen property valued at over $70,000. That's a felony. We need TOA. You need to wait, Joon said. Still quiet. Still calm. But something in his voice made both officers straighten up. Before you arrest anyone in my restaurant, on my property, I suggest you hear what I have to say. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. The second officer's hand moved away from his handcuffs. We're listening, Mr. Kang. Yuna's smile was starting to crack at the edges. Just slightly. She stepped closer to Joon, placed her hand on his arm with familiar ease. Joon, I know this is uncomfortable, she said softly, playing the part of concerned ex-girlfriend perfectly. But we can't let personal feelings get in the way of justice. She stole from me. From us. The documentation proves it. Joon's eyes dropped to where her hand rested on his arm. He didn't move. Didn't pull away. Just looked at her hand like it was a bug that had landed on his sleeve. Remove your hand, Yuna. The words were soft. Almost gentle. But the coldness in them made the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. Yuna's hand jerked back like she'd been burned. Her perfect mask slipped for just a second, showing the hurt and rage underneath before she smoothed it back into place. "I'm trying to help you," she said, voice tight. "She's a thief. She worked in my home, she had access to my bedroom, my personal belongings, and when that necklace went missing." "When exactly did it go missing?" Joon asked. Yuna blinked. "What? You reported it stolen on March 15th, 2 years ago. According to the documentation." Joon's eyes were still on her face, reading every micro-expression. "But Mara Thompson didn't leave your employment until June of that year. 3 months later." The restaurant was so quiet you could hear the ice melting in someone's water glass across the room. Yuna's smile flickered. I didn't realize it was gone right away. I have so many pieces of jewelry, you know how it is. I must have noticed it missing later and realized when it had actually disappeared." "Interesting," Joon said. "Because the police report you filed states that you discovered it missing on March 15th itself. You called me that same day. Crying. Said you just noticed it was gone from your jewelry box." Yuna's face went pale. Mara watched this exchange with growing confusion. Her cheek still throbbed where Yuna had hit her. The security guards still surrounded her. The police were still there. But something was happening. Something she didn't understand yet. "Robert," Joon said, still not looking away from Yuna. "Bring me the full file on that stolen items report. Not just the list. Everything." Robert's hands shook as he reached under the host's stand again. This time he pulled out a thicker folder, sealed with the Kang Industries stamp. He walked it over to Joon like a man delivering his own death sentence. Joon opened the folder. Flipped through several pages. His expression never changed, but his eyes grew colder with each page he read. "According to this," he said slowly, "the necklace was described as jade and silver, Korean and African symbols, estimated value $73,000, gift from Kang Joon to Yuna Park, December 2021. He looked up at Yuna. "I never gave you a necklace like that." The words landed like a bomb in the silent restaurant. Yuna's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. "Yes, you did. For my birthday." "You don't remember because you give me so many gifts. I remember every gift I've ever given you, Yuna. And I never, not once, gave you a necklace with African symbols." Joon's voice was still soft, but now it had an edge like broken glass. "Because you told me repeatedly that you only wanted Korean pieces. That anything else was beneath your standards." Yuna's face flushed red. "That's Noda I never saida. You said it at dinner. October 2021. In front of 6 people." Joon turned to one of the men sitting at a nearby table. "Kim SSI, you were there. What did Mississippi Park say when the gallery owner showed her that African-Korean fusion piece?" The man at the table looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. But he spoke anyway. She said she didn't understand why anyone would ruin beautiful Korean art by mixing it with tribal aesthetics." Several people in the restaurant gasped. Yuna's face went from red to white. "I was joking. It was a joke. Joon, you know I didn't mean." "So you're telling me," Joon continued, his voice cutting through her excuses like a knife, "that after saying you had no interest in African-Korean pieces, I then gave you an expensive African-Korean necklace. And you accepted it. Wore it. Loved it so much that when it was stolen, you were devastated." He closed the folder with a soft snap. "You're lying." The 2 words fell into the room like stones into still water. Yuna took a step back. Her eyes were wide now, desperate. No, that's Noda Joon, she stole it. She had access to my apartment. The timeline matches. She's a maid, for God's sake. How else would she have a $73,000 necklace? "That's what I'd like to know," Joon said. He turned, finally, to Mara. Their eyes met. And Mara felt her heart stop. Because she saw the question there. The test. He was giving her a chance to explain. But he was also watching to see if she'd lie. "Mr. Kang," she said, her voice rough from holding back tears. "That necklace belonged to my great-great-grandmother. She received it in 1891 from a Korean merchant in New York. A man who helped her when no one else would. She was newly free, trying to start a business, and he gave her that necklace and told her strength recognizes strength." She took a shaky breath. "It's been passed down through 4 generations of women in my family. My grandmother, Mama Grace, she gave it to me 6 months ago. Right before she died. She made me promise to wear it every day. To remember where I came from. To remember that we survive." Mara's eyes burned, but she didn't let the tears fall. "I don't know how that necklace ended up on your stolen items list, Mr. Kang. I don't know why Mississippi Park is claiming it belonged to her. But I swear to you, on my grandmother's grave, on my brother's life, I did not steal it. It's mine. It's always been mine." The restaurant was silent. Joon studied her face for a long moment. Then he looked at the officers. "I need to make a phone call," he said. "Officer, I'm asking you to give me 15 minutes before you make any arrests. As a courtesy." The first officer looked uncomfortable. "Sir, we have a complaint, we have documentation." 15 minutes, Joon repeated. "Then if you still want to arrest her, I won't stop you." The officer looked at his partner. They had a silent conversation with their eyes. Finally, the first officer nodded. 15 minutes. "But she doesn't leave this restaurant." "Understood." Joon turned to Taemin. "Make sure she's comfortable. Get her some water. Ice for her face." Then he walked toward the back of the restaurant, phone already in his hand. The moment he was gone, Yuna whirled on Mara. Her perfect mask was completely shattered now, showing the ugly rage underneath. "You think you're clever," she hissed, quiet enough that the officers couldn't hear but loud enough for Mara. "You think he's going to save you? He's using you, you stupid girl. Whatever game he's playing, whatever test this is, you're nothing to him. Just a piece on a board." Mara met her eyes steadily. "Maybe. But at least I'm not lying about who I am." Yuna's hand came up again, ready to slap her a second time. Taemin was there instantly. His hand caught Yuna's wrist mid-swing, his grip iron hard. "I don't think so, Mississippi Park," he said quietly. "Mr. Kang wouldn't like that." He released her wrist with a slight push that sent her stumbling back a step. Yuna's eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time. Not the calculated tears she used to manipulate, but genuine tears of frustration and fear. "He was mine," she whispered. "For 2 years, he was mine. And you come from nowhere, you're nobody," and somehow, she stopped. Shook her head. "You don't even know what you've gotten yourself into. The world he lives in, it will eat you alive." "Maybe," Mara said again. "But I've been surviving in a hard world my whole life, Mississippi Park." "Have you?" Before Yuna could respond, Joon returned. His face was still expressionless, but something had changed. There was a glint in his eyes, a satisfaction that hadn't been there before. "Officer," he said, pulling out his phone and showing them the screen. "I just spoke with the director of the Museum of Korean American History. According to their records, the necklace Miss Thompson is wearing matches the description of a piece donated to their archives in 1923 by a Korean merchant named Lee Min-joon." He swiped to another screen. The necklace was described as jade and silver, with carved African Adinkra symbols and Korean calligraphy, representing the unity of 2 cultures. Given by Lee Min-joon to an African-American woman named Sarah Thompson as a gift of respect and friendship in 1891. Mara's breath caught. Sarah Thompson. Her great-great-grandmother. "The museum has photographs," Joon continued. "Documentation. Letters from Lee Min-joon explaining the significance of the piece. The family kept the necklace after Sarah Thompson's death, passed it down through generations. It was never part of my collection. It was never given to Mississippi Park. It never belonged to anyone but the Thompson family. He turned to Yuna. His eyes were ice. You lied. You saw Mara wearing her family heirloom, recognized its value, and decided to claim it was stolen property. You manipulated me into adding it to my company's stolen items list, knowing I trusted you at the time and wouldn't question it. And tonight, you tried to have an innocent woman arrested for wearing her own property. No, Yuna breathed. No, that's no to Joon, please ya. Get out of my restaurant, Joon said softly. Get out of my life. And if I ever hear that you've gone anywhere near Mara Thompson or her family again, I will make sure everyone in your social circle knows exactly what you tried to do tonight. Juna. Out. Now. Taemin stepped forward. Yuna looked at him, at the officers who were now watching her with very different expressions, at the 53 people in the restaurant who had witnessed everything. Her reputation, the thing she valued most in the world, had just shattered in front of everyone who mattered. She turned and ran. Actually ran. Her heels clicking rapidly against the marble floor until the restaurant door slammed shut behind her. The officers looked at each other. The first one cleared his throat. Mr. Kang, we'll need to file an updated report. If Mississippi Park filed a false police report, that's between you and her, Joon said. But I'd like to keep Miss Thompson out of it. She's the victim here. The officer nodded. Understood. Miss Thompson, you're free to go. Sorry for the confusion. Mara stood there, surrounded by security guards who were now stepping back, watched by 53 people who had just witnessed her almost get arrested, her face bruised and her throat still aching for the necklace that had been ripped away. Your necklace, Joon said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the jade and silver piece. Yuna must have dropped it during her exit. He held it out to Mara. She took it with shaking hands. The moment the cool metal touched her skin, she felt Mama Grace's presence. Felt her strength. Thank you, she whispered. Joon nodded once. Then he turned to address the restaurant. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption to your evening. All meals tonight are complimentary. Please enjoy the rest of your dinner. Just like that, the spell broke. Conversation resumed. Forks lifted. The piano player started playing again. As if the last 15 minutes hadn't just turned someone's entire world upside down. But as Mara stood there, necklace clutched in her hands, she realized something. Kang Joon had known. He'd known all along that her necklace was real, that it belonged to her. He'd done the research. Made the call to the museum. Which meant he'd been watching her for 6 months. Protecting her without her knowing it. Keeping documentation that would prove her innocence if anyone ever questioned it. Why? She looked up at him, the question in her eyes. He met her gaze for just a moment. And something passed between them. Some understanding that neither of them was ready to name yet. Taemin will make sure you get home safely, Joon said. Take tomorrow off. With pay. Then he walked back to his corner booth, picked up his glass of soju, and returned to his meal like nothing had happened. But Mara noticed something. For the first time in 7 years, the Ice King was smiling. Mara didn't sleep that night. She lay in her small Brooklyn bedroom, the jade and silver necklace clutched in her hand, staring at the ceiling as her mind replayed everything that had happened. The slap. The accusation. The handcuffs almost closing around her wrists. And then Kang Joon, standing up, defending her, destroying Yuna's lie with a single phone call. He'd known. He'd researched her necklace. Maybe the moment he first saw her wearing it, or maybe even before she started working at Lotus House. He'd called the museum, gotten documentation, kept it ready. For what? For tonight? Had he known Yuna would try something? Or had he been testing Mara all along, watching to see if she'd try to sell it, pawn it, lie about where it came from? The questions circled in her mind like sharks. At 6:47 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. Miss Thompson. The voice was calm, professional. Female. This is Min Seo, Mr. Kang's assistant. He's requested your presence at his office this morning. A car will arrive at your building at 9 a.m. Mara sat up in bed. I was told to take the day off. This isn't about work at Lotus House. This is personal business. The dress code is business casual. The car will wait if you need more time. Click. Mara stared at her phone. Personal business. What did that even mean? Across the small apartment, Isaiah's bedroom door opened. Her little brother shuffled out, rubbing his eyes, his hands already moving in sign language before he was fully awake. Why are you up so early? He signed. Couldn't sleep, Mara signed back. Isaiah studied her face with the intensity that came from a lifetime of reading expressions instead of voices. His hands moved carefully. Something happened. Your face. Did someone hit you? Mara had forgotten about the bruise. She touched her cheek gently. Still tender. Still purple. It's handled, she signed. I'm okay. Promise. Isaiah didn't look convinced, but he nodded. Breakfast? I have a meeting. But I'll make you pancakes first. His face lit up. At 13, he still got excited about pancakes. Mara hoped he never lost that. While the batter sizzled on the griddle, while Isaiah poured too much syrup and signed about the robotics competition his team was preparing for, Mara felt the weight of the necklace around her throat. She'd put it back on the moment she got home. Hadn't taken it off since. Strength recognizes strength. At 8:47 a.m., Mara stood on the curb outside her building in the nicest outfit she owned. Black slacks that she'd bought from a thrift store 2 years ago. A white blouse that was starting to fray at the collar but was clean and pressed. Shoes that hurt her feet but looked professional. At exactly 9 a.m., a black sedan pulled up. The same one from last night. Taemin stepped out of the driver's seat. Miss Thompson, he said with a slight bow. Ready? The drive into Manhattan was quiet. Mara watched Brooklyn transform into the city, the buildings growing taller, the streets growing busier, the world growing colder and more expensive with every block. Can I ask you something? She said finally. Taemin's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. You can ask. I may not answer. How long has Mr. Kang known about my necklace? About my family? Taemin was silent for a long moment. Then, the day you applied to work at Lotus House, he ran a background check. Standard procedure. When he saw the necklace in your application photo, he had me research it. 3 days later, we had your entire family history. Mara's chest tightened. So he's been testing me. No, Taemin said. He's been protecting you. From what? From people like Mississippi Park. Taemin's voice was matter-of-fact. Mr. Kang knew she would try something eventually. She's been watching you for months. Ever since she realized you were working at Lotus House. When she saw that necklace, she saw an opportunity. And he just waited. Let her make her move. He gave her enough rope to hang herself. Taemin pulled up to Kang Tower, the gleaming skyscraper that housed Kang Joon's legitimate empire. And you. He watched to see what you would do when cornered. What did he want me to do? Taemin smiled slightly. Exactly what you did. Tell the truth. Stand your ground. Not break. The elevator to the top floor moved so fast Mara's ears popped. When the doors opened, she stepped into a world of glass and steel and money. Min Seo was waiting. Tall, elegant, with the kind of efficiency that came from running a billionaire's life. She wore a designer suit that probably cost more than Mara's monthly rent. Miss Thompson. Please follow me. They walked past offices filled with people in expensive clothes making expensive decisions. Past conference rooms where meetings were happening in languages Mara couldn't understand. Past walls covered in art that she recognized now from her shifts at Lotus House, pieces worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Minacio stopped at a door at the end of the hall. Solid wood. No window. A brass plate that simply read, Kang Joon. She knocked twice, opened the door, and gestured for Mara to enter. The office was exactly what Mara expected and nothing like it at the same time. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan. The morning sun streamed in, turning everything golden. The furniture was minimal, expensive, chosen for function rather than flash. A desk that looked like it was carved from a single piece of wood. Chairs that probably cost more than Mara's car. But what caught her attention was the wall to the left. Covered in photographs. Black and white images of Korea from decades ago. A woman in traditional hanbok standing in front of a small shop. That same woman, older now, with two young boys. Those boys growing up, one becoming a teenager with a rare smile. Kang Joon's family. His history. His grandmother. She came to America with $10 and a jade pendant. Joon's voice came from behind her. Mara turned. He was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, watching her with those steel-gray eyes. My grandmother, he continued. She worked 3 jobs. Saved every penny. Built our family from nothing. He nodded toward the photos. That's her shop. The first one. In Los Angeles, 1967. She sold Korean goods to homesick immigrants. Made enough to bring her sons to America. Enough to give them education. Opportunities. He walked toward his desk, gestured for Mara to sit. She died 5 years ago. Left me everything. The business. The connections. The empire she'd built with her bare hands. Joon sat across from her. And one instruction, don't forget where we came from. Don't forget what we survived. Mara touched the necklace at her throat. Why are you telling me this? Because last night, I watched you stand in front of 53 people and tell the truth even when lying would have been easier. Even when it looked like the truth would destroy you. Joon leaned forward slightly. Do you know how rare that is? I couldn't lie, Mara said simply. Not about my grandmother. Not about my family. Exactly. Something flickered in Joon's eyes. Everyone in my world lies, Miss Thompson. They lie about who they are, where they came from, what they want. They wear masks so long they forget their real faces. But you. He paused. You stood there with your face bruised and your life falling apart, and you told the truth. He opened a drawer in his desk, pulled out a folder, and slid it across to her. That's why I'm offering you this. Mara opened the folder carefully. Inside were documents. Official-looking papers with the Kong Industries letterhead. Her eyes scanned the first page. Employment contract. Position, cultural liaison and family representative. Salary, $180,000 annually. Benefits, full health coverage, housing allowance, education fund for immediate family. The numbers blurred. Mara couldn't breathe. $180,000. That was more money than she'd made in the last 5 years combined. I don't understand, she whispered. I'm expanding the legitimate side of my business, Joon said. Art galleries. Cultural exchanges between Korea and America. I need someone who understands both worlds. Someone who can move between wealthy collectors and working-class communities. Someone who sees people clearly. He gestured to the folder. The art world is full of people pretending to be something they're not. I need someone real. Someone who can spot a fake, whether it's a painting or a person. But I don't know anything about art, Mara said. You can learn. What matters is that you see truth. You proved that last night. Joon's eyes held hers. And I trust people who can't be bought. People who value something more than money. Mara looked down at the contract again. Read the number. Read the benefits. This would pay off Mama Grace's debt in a year. Would secure Isaiah's education through college. Would change everything. But there had to be a catch. There was always a catch. "What do you really want from me?" she asked, looking up at him. For the first time since she'd met him, Kang Joon smiled. Not the cold smile from last night. Something warmer. More real. "Honestly? I don't know yet." He leaned back in his chair. "But I watched you take a blow and not break. I watched you pray instead of cry. I watched you stand your ground against someone with more power, more money, more connections. And I thought, that's someone worth having on my side." He paused. "The question is, are you brave enough to say yes?" Mara sat with that for a moment. Thought about Isaiah. About Mama Grace's debt. About the years of exhaustion, the 16-hour shifts, the constant fear of one emergency destroying everything they'd built. But she also thought about Yuna's last words, the world he lives in, it will eat you alive." "If I say yes," Mara said slowly, "what world am I walking into exactly?" June's smile faded slightly. "An honest question deserves an honest answer. My business has two sides. The legitimate side, restaurants, galleries, real estate, all legal. All clean. And the other side. The one people whisper about but never mention directly." He met her eyes. "I won't lie to you, Miss Thompson. I have connections that operate in gray areas. I have influence that comes from sources I can't always discuss. But I keep the two sides separate. The legitimate business is exactly that, legitimate. And that's where you'd be working. And if the other side bleeds over? It won't. I make sure of that." June's voice was firm. "You would be protected. Always. Anyone who touched you would answer to me." He gestured to the contract. "Read it. Think about it. Take 24 hours. But know this, if you say yes, your life changes. There's no going back to 16-hour shifts and survival mode. There's only moving forward." Mara's hand went to her necklace. Touched the jade, the silver, the symbols that represented 4 generations of women who survived impossible things. "I don't need 24 hours, she said. June raised an eyebrow. "No? My grandmother taught me something." Mara's voice was steady. She said strength recognizes strength. "And last night, when everyone else saw a thief, you saw the truth. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are." She picked up the pen from the desk. "Where do I sign?" 2 weeks passed in a blur. Mara's life transformed so quickly it felt like living in someone else's dream. The debt collectors stopped calling. Mama Grace's $92,000 balance was paid in full by Kong Industries, listed as an employee signing bonus. The relief was so overwhelming Mara cried for the first time since the funeral. Isaiah's school tuition was secured through graduation, plus a college fund that made Mara's hands shake when she read the number. They moved to a new apartment. Nothing fancy, but bigger. 2 real bedrooms. Windows that let in actual sunlight. A kitchen where Mara could cook without bumping into walls. And Mara started training. Taemin appeared at her door every morning at 6 a.m., relentless and patient in equal measure. "Again," he said as Mara scanned the photograph of a gallery opening for the 3rd time. "How many exits?" 4. Front entrance, service door in the back left, emergency exit near the bathrooms, and the kitchen access that connects to the neighboring building. Weapons? Champagne bottles, the metal sculpture stands, fire extinguisher behind the bar, and the chef's knives visible through the kitchen window. Who's carrying? Mara's eyes swept the image carefully. The woman in red, ankle holster, right leg. The man by the door, shoulder holster under his left arm. And the waiter in the back, something in his jacket pocket, bulges wrong for a phone. Taemin nodded. Good. You're learning fast. By day 3, Mara could read a room in seconds. Count exits. Spot weapons. Identify threats before they became dangerous. By day 7, she was learning the art world. Gallery owners, collectors, auction houses. The difference between genuine Korean antiques and clever fakes. The way rich people spoke in code, saying one thing and meaning another. By day 14, she was fluent in a language she'd never known existed. And through it all, Kang Joon watched. Not obviously. Not in ways that made her uncomfortable. But she'd catch him observing her during training sessions, or reviewing the notes Min SEO took about her progress, or asking Taemin careful questions about how she was adapting. It should have felt invasive. Should have felt like surveillance. Instead, it felt like being seen. Really seen. For the first time in her life. But on the 14th night, everything changed. Mara was closing up her section at Lotus House. She still worked there 2 shifts a week, cover, Joon called it. A way to maintain her old life while building her new one. The restaurant was empty except for the kitchen staff cleaning up. Robert had left an hour ago, said he had a personal matter to attend to. Mara was wiping down her last table when she noticed something. Robert's office door was cracked open. He never left it open. Never. She shouldn't look. She should mind her business, finish her shift, go home. But something felt wrong. Mara walked to the office door, pushed it open slowly. The office was dark except for the glow from Robert's computer, still on, screen unlocked. Her training kicked in automatically. Taemin's voice in her head, always know your environment. Always read the signs. She stepped inside, moved to the computer. The screen showed an email. Sent 20 minutes ago. Subject line, meeting confirmed. Mara's breath caught as she read. It tomorrow night. 11 p.m. Same location. Bring the documents. Joon will be waiting. The gallery opening is in 3 days. Everything must be ready. Joon. As in Kang Juno. Joon's cousin. Mara scrolled down. Found a chain of emails going back weeks. Robert communicating with someone named Juno. Talking about shipments, documents, customs forms. And then she saw it. A name that made her blood run cold. Her own name. Use the girl. She's new. She doesn't know enough to ask questions. Have her sign for the shipment at the gallery. When Interpol raids, the documents will have her signature. Joon's new, cultural liaison, will be the perfect scapegoat. Mara's hand started shaking. They were setting her up. Robert, Juno, someone else she couldn't see yet. They were planning something at a gallery opening in 3 days. Something illegal. And they were going to make it look like her fault. She pulled out her phone, took photos of everything on the screen. Email after email. Plans. Shipment schedules. A whole conspiracy laid out in black and white. When she was done, she backed out of the office, closed the door exactly as she'd found it, and walked out of Lotus House on legs that barely held her weight. On the subway home, sitting in the fluorescent light with her photos of evidence burning in her phone, Mara touched the necklace at her throat and whispered the prayer Mama Grace had taught her. But this time, she wasn't praying for strength. She was praying for wisdom. Because in 3 days, someone was going to try to destroy Kang Joon. And she was the weapon they planned to use. The only question was, should she warn him? Or should she run? Mara didn't go home. She rode the subway to the end of the line, then switched trains and rode back. Thinking. Calculating. Trying to figure out who she could trust. The answer kept coming back the same, no one. Robert was part of the conspiracy. That much was clear from the emails. But who else? How deep did it go? And why Kang Juno? What did Joon's own cousin have to gain from destroying him? At 2:17 a.m., Mara finally got off at her stop in Brooklyn. Walked the 3 blocks to her new apartment building. Stood outside for a full minute, scanning the street the way Taemin had taught her. No suspicious cars. No one watching. Just the normal late-night sounds of the city. She was being paranoid. Maybe. Inside the apartment, Isaiah was asleep. She could hear his soft breathing from his bedroom. Safe. Unaware that his sister had just stumbled into something that could destroy them both. Mara sat at the small kitchen table, phone in her hands, photos of the emails glowing on the screen. She could run. Take Isaiah, empty her new bank account, disappear. Change their names. Start over in another city, another state. Leave before the trap closed. That was the smart play. The safe play. Or she could warn Kang Joon. Tell him everything. Trust that he'd protect her the way he protected her from Yuna. But what if he already knew? What if this was another test? What if he was watching to see if she'd stay loyal or cut and run the moment things got dangerous? Mara's head ached. She'd been awake for 21 hours. Her body was screaming for sleep. But her mind wouldn't stop spinning. At 3:45 a.m., she made her decision. She picked up her phone and dialed the number Min Seo had given her. For emergencies only, the assistant had said. Mr. Kang doesn't sleep much, but he values his private time. This qualified as an emergency. The phone rang once. Twice. On the third ring, a voice answered. Miss Thompson. Taemin's voice was alert, no trace of sleep. What's wrong? I need to see him. Right now. It's about the gallery opening in 3 days. Silence on the other end. Then, I'll send a car. 20 minutes. Click. Mara changed quickly. Put on jeans and a hoodie, clothes she could move in if she needed to run. Wrote a note for Isaiah in case he woke up, a emergency work thing. Back soon. Love you. She slipped the necklace under her shirt, close to her heart. The car arrived in exactly 20 minutes. Not Taemin this time. A different driver. Older man, hard eyes, the kind of face that had seen violence and hadn't flinched. They drove through empty Manhattan streets. Past closed storefronts and sleeping buildings. The city looked different at 4 a.m. quieter. More honest. Like it had taken off its makeup and was showing its real face. Kong Tower was dark except for the top floor. A single rectangle of light in the sky. The elevator ride felt longer than usual. Mara watched the numbers climb, her heart pounding harder with each floor. When the doors opened, Taemin was waiting. He's in his office, was all he said. The hallway was empty. No Minesio. No assistants. No sounds except Mara's footsteps and the distant hum of the building systems. She knocked on June's door. Twice. Just like she'd seen Minesio do. Come in. Kang Joon sat at his desk, still dressed in a suit despite the hour. A glass of whiskey sat untouched beside his laptop. He looked up as she entered, and for just a second, she saw something in his eyes. Relief, maybe. Or concern. Show me, he said simply. No questions about why she was there. No surprise that she'd called. Just an immediate understanding that something important had brought her to his office at 4 a.m. Mara pulled out her phone, handed it to him. Watched as he scrolled through the photos of Robert's emails. His face remained expressionless, but his jaw tightened with each swipe. When he reached the last photo, he set the phone down carefully. Picked up his whiskey. Took a slow sip. How did you find these? His voice was quiet. Robert left his office unlocked tonight. Computer still on. I saw the emails. And you came straight here instead of running. It wasn't a question, but Mara answered anyway. Yes. Why? Mara met his eyes. Because 2 weeks ago, you could have let me get arrested. You could have stayed silent, let Yuna's lie stand, protected yourself from the drama. Instead, you defended me. You told the truth even though it made things complicated. She touched the necklace under her shirt. Strength recognizes strength. That's what my great-great-grandmother learned. That's what you showed me. So I'm showing you the same thing. Joon studied her for a long moment. Then he pressed a button on his desk phone. Taemin. Come in. And wake up Kim. I need him here in 30 minutes. He turned back to Mara. Tell me everything you remember from those emails. Every detail. For the next 20 minutes, Mara recited what she'd seen. The dates, the shipment schedules, the mentions of customs documents. The plan to have her sign for something at the gallery opening. The reference to Interpol. Joon listened without interrupting. Made notes on a pad of paper in handwriting so precise it looked like printing. When she finished, he sat back in his chair. My cousin Juno has been trying to take over the family business for 3 years. Ever since our grandmother chose me instead of him to run everything. Why did she choose you? She said I had steel in my soul. That Juno was too soft, too concerned with appearances. A bitter smile flickered across Joon's face. Turns out she was half right. He's not soft. He's just better at hiding his ambition. Taemin entered, followed by a man Mara hadn't met before. Older, maybe 50, with gray hair and the kind of calm that came from years of experience. This is Kim Daeshik, Joon said. Head of security for all Kang Industries operations. Miss Thompson just discovered a conspiracy to frame me for art smuggling. Using her as the scapegoat. Kim's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. Show me. Joon handed over Mara's phone. Kim scrolled through the photos, his face growing darker with each image. Juno's been planning this for months, Kim said finally. The shipments are real. Korean artifacts being smuggled into the country without proper documentation. Customs forms forged with your signature, sir. They're using legitimate gallery openings as cover. And when Interpol raids, Joon said quietly, all the evidence will point to me. The forged signatures. The shipment manifests. And Miss Thompson's name on the receiving documents. Making her the perfect witness, Kim added. Your new cultural liaison. She signed for the shipments. She must have known. Or if she didn't know, then you were using her as an unwitting accomplice. Either way, you go down. Mara felt sick. They were going to destroy both of us. Yes. Joon's eyes met hers. But they made one mistake. What? They assumed you wouldn't notice. That you'd be so grateful for the job, so overwhelmed by the money and the opportunity, that you'd sign whatever they put in front of you without asking questions. He leaned forward. They underestimated you. Just like Yuna did. Taemin moved to the window, looking down at the sleeping city. The gallery opening is in 3 days. Friday night. Deadless Gallery on the Upper East Side. Treasures of the Joseon Dynasty. I'm the lead sponsor, Joon said. Which means I'll be there. Front and center. Exactly where Juno wants me when Interpol comes through the door. So we cancel, Mara said. Call it off. Don't go. No. Joon stood, walked to the wall of family photos. Touched the frame holding his grandmother's image. We go. We let them think their plan is working. That's insane, Mara said. If Interpol is really Kaminga. They won't be. Joon turned back to her. Kim, how long would it take to redirect an Interpol investigation? Kim smiled. A cold, professional smile. With the right contacts? 72 hours. Maybe less. Then that's what we do. We let Juno believe everything is proceeding as planned. But when those agents come through the door, they'll be looking for him. Not me. How? Mara asked. Because we're going to flip every piece of evidence. Every forged signature, every shipping manifest, every customs document. All of it will point back to Juno. He's been so careful to frame me that he's left a perfect trail. We just need to redirect it. Joon's smile was ice cold. He wanted to use my own business against me. Use my gallery opening. My reputation. My new cultural liaison. He looked at Mara. Instead, we'll use his arrogance against him. What about Robert? Mara asked. He's part of this. Robert is trapped, Kim said. I've been watching him for 2 weeks. He has a gambling problem. Owes $183,000 to some very dangerous people. Juno found out, offered to pay the debt in exchange for information. For cooperation. Taemin turned from the window. He's not evil. He's desperate. Which makes him dangerous, June said. But also predictable. Kim, find out who holds Robert's debt. Buy it. All of it. Then make sure Robert knows I own it now. Kim nodded. And his wife? She doesn't know about the gambling. Keep it that way. But let Robert know that I could tell her. That's enough leverage to flip him. Mara watched this unfold with a strange mixture of awe and fear. This was the other side of Kang Joon. The side that operated in shadows. That moved pieces on a board she couldn't fully see. What do you need me to do? She asked. June turned to her. The hardest part. You need to act normal. Go to work at Lotus House. Train with Taemin. Prepare for the gallery opening like nothing is wrong. They're going to ask me to sign something. The receiving documents. And you're going to sign them. Exactly as they expect. But Kim will make sure those documents have additional signatures. Juno's signatures. Buried in the fine print. So when Interpol examines them, they'll see a conspiracy. Just not the one Juno planned. Mara's head was spinning. And if something goes wrong? If they figure out we know? June stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the flecks of amber in his steel-gray eyes. Nothing will go wrong. Because I don't lose, Miss Thompson. Ever. And anyone who tries to hurt what's mine learns that lesson very painfully. The way he said, "What's mine," made Mara's breath catch. Because he wasn't just talking about his business. He was talking about her. Get some sleep, June said, stepping back. Taemin will take you home. In 3 days, we're going to a gallery opening. And we're going to watch my cousin destroy himself. As Mara left the office, she heard June's voice one more time, quiet but clear. Thank you. For trusting me with this. She turned back. He was standing by the window now, silhouetted against the slowly brightening sky. Strength recognizes strength, she said. His smile was small but genuine. Yes. It does. The next 3 days moved like a dream. Or a nightmare. Mara couldn't decide which. She went to work at Lotus House. Smiled at customers. Took orders. Pretended everything was normal while Robert watched her with increasingly nervous eyes. On the second day, Robert pulled her aside. Mara, I need to talk to you about Friday night. The gallery opening. What about it? His hands shook as he pulled out a folder. Mr. Kang asked me to have you sign some receiving documents. Standard procedure for artwork arriving from Korea. You're the cultural liaison, so your signature confirms the authenticity. Mara took the folder. Opened it. Inside were customs forms, shipping manifests, authentication certificates. All looking official. All very carefully designed to frame her. Where do I sign? She asked, keeping her voice steady. Robert showed her. 6 different documents. 6 places where her signature would tie her to smuggled artifacts. Mara signed each one carefully. Watched Robert's relief as he gathered the papers. Thank you, he said quietly. Then, even quieter, I'm sorry. She almost felt bad for him. Almost. On the 3rd day, Kim pulled Mara aside during her training session with Taemin. We own Robert's debt now. All $183,000. I told him this morning. He wept like a child. And And he's agreed to testify if needed. To tell the truth about Juno's plan. In exchange, we clear his debt and relocate him. New city. New name. Fresh start. He doesn't deserve that, Mara said. No, Kim agreed. But we need him more than we need revenge. And sometimes mercy is more powerful than punishment. That night, Mara couldn't sleep again. She lay in bed, necklace clutched in her hand, thinking about everything that was about to happen. Isaiah knocked softly on her door. She signed for him to come in. You're scared, he signed, sitting on the edge of her bed. I can see it. I'm okay, she signed back. Liar. His hands moved firmly. Something big is happening. Something dangerous. Mara couldn't lie to him. Wouldn't. Yes, she signed. But I have help. Good people who are protecting us. The man from the restaurant? The one who defended you? Yes. Isaiah studied her face in the dim light. Do you trust him? Mara thought about that. About Kang Joon standing up when everyone else sat silent. About him researching her necklace to protect her. About him believing her when she brought him evidence of a conspiracy. Yes, she signed. I trust him. Isaiah nodded slowly. Then his hands moved in a question that made Mara's breath catch. Do you love him? I don't know, Mara signed honestly. It's too soon. Too complicated. Mama Grace always said love isn't about time. It's about truth. Isaiah's smile was gentle. And he tells you the truth. That's rare. He hugged her goodnight and went back to his room, leaving Mara alone with that observation. Did she love Kang Joon? Or was this just gratitude? Admiration? The natural result of someone powerful protecting someone vulnerable? She didn't have an answer. But as she finally drifted off to sleep, she dreamed of steel-gray eyes and a voice that said, "What's mine?" like a promise. Friday arrived. The day of the gallery opening. The day of reckoning. Mara dressed carefully. The midnight blue dress June had provided, elegant but not flashy. Hair swept up. Makeup subtle. The jade and silver necklace at her throat, catching the light. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. 2 weeks ago, she'd been a maid. Exhausted, broke, drowning. Now she was walking into a trap designed to destroy her, wearing expensive clothes and a smile that hid everything she knew. The car arrived at 7 p.m. Taemin drove this time. Remember, he said as they pulled up to Deadless Gallery. Act natural. Stay close to Mr. Kang. Trust the plan. And if something goes wrong? Taemin's hand moved to his jacket, where Mara knew he kept a gun. Then I do my job. The gallery was already crowded when they arrived. Manhattan's elite in designer clothes and practiced smiles. Champagne flowing. Priceless Korean artifacts displayed under perfect lighting. And in the center of it all, Kang Joon. He stood by a display of Joseon Dynasty ceramics, talking with a museum director. When Mara entered, his eyes found hers across the room. He didn't smile. Didn't acknowledge her obviously. But something passed between them. A understanding. A promise. We're ready. Mara moved through the crowd, playing her part. The cultural liaison. The educated young woman who could discuss Korean history with collectors and make small talk with socialites. At 8:30 p.m., she saw him. Kang Joon. He entered like a man who already owned the place. Expensive suit. Perfect smile. Confidence radiating from every pore. And beside him, wearing a blood-red dress that clung to every curve, was Una Park. They'd brought her back. The woman who'd slapped Mara, who'd tried to frame her for theft. She was here, on Juno's arm, smiling like she'd already won. Mara's hands clenched into fists. Taemin appeared at her elbow. Steady, he murmured. Let them come to you. And they did. Juno made his way across the gallery, Yuna trailing behind him. He stopped in front of Kang Joon, his smile broad and false. "Cousin," he said warmly. "Beautiful event. Grandmother would be proud." Joon's expression didn't change. "Would she?" "Of course. You've built something remarkable here." Juno's eyes slid to Mara. "And who is this? I don't believe we've met." "This is Mara Thompson," Joon said. "My cultural liaison." Juno's smile widened. "Predatory. Charming. I've heard so much about you, Miss Thompson." Yuna's eyes were cold with hatred, but she said nothing. Just stood there like a beautiful weapon, waiting to be used. Mara met Juno's gaze steadily. "I'm sure you have." At 9 p.m. exactly, the gallery doors opened again. And 6 people in dark suits walked in. Professional. Serious. Moving with purpose. Juno's smile became genuine. Triumphant. This was it. The moment he'd been planning for months. Interpol had arrived. Kang Joon was about to fall. The lead agent stopped in front of their group. Pulled out a badge. "Interpol. We have a warrant for the arrest Ofa." And Kang Joon, the Ice King, who never smiled, smiled. A Kang Juno. The name hung in the air like a death sentence. Juno's smile collapsed. His face went from triumphant to confused to terrified in the span of 3 seconds. "What?" His voice came out too high, too loud. "No. No, there's been a mistake. You want him." He jabbed a finger at Joon. "Kang Joon. He's the one you're looking for." The lead agent, a woman with sharp eyes and no patience, pulled out a tablet. "Kang Juno, you're under arrest for international arts smuggling, customs fraud, document forgery, and conspiracy to commit fraud. You have the right to remain silenta." "This is insane." Juno backed away, bumping into a display case. "I didn't do anything. He set me up. My cousin, he's the one smuggling artifacts. We have shipping manifests with your signature," the agent said calmly. "Customs documents with your authorization. Bank transfers from your personal accounts to known smuggling operations. Communications between you and dealers in Korea arranging illegal transport of artifacts." She gestured to 2 agents behind her. They moved forward, handcuffs ready. "We also have testimony from Robert Hayes, manager of Lotus House, detailing your conspiracy to frame your cousin using a falsified smuggling operation." Juno's eyes went wild. He looked at Joon, at Mara, at the watching crowd. You did this. You somehow." "I did nothing," Joon said quietly. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "You built this trap yourself, cousin. You spent months creating false evidence, forging documents, arranging shipments. You did such thorough work that when we simply redirected the investigation to you, it all fit perfectly." Juno lunged forward. Taemin was there instantly, his hand on Juno's chest, stopping him cold. "You're not going to get away with this," Juno hissed. "Grandmother would never." "Grandmother told me to protect the family legacy," Joon said. "That's exactly what I'm doing. Removing the cancer before it spreads." The agents moved in. Handcuffs clicked around Juno's wrists. The gallery crowd stood frozen, champagne glasses suspended, watching Manhattan royalty fall in real time. Yuna had gone pale. She tried to back away, to disappear into the crowd, but one of the agents called out, "Mississippi Park. We'll need you to come with us as well. For questioning." "I didn't do anything," Yuna said quickly. "I was just his date for the evening. I don't know anything about smuggling. Your phone records show over 40 calls to Mr. Kang Juno in the past 2 weeks, the agent said. Including several calls to known smuggling contacts. You're not under arrest yet, but we have questions." Yuna's eyes found Mara across the gallery. The hatred there was pure, undiluted. This was the second time Mara had been part of her downfall. The second time she'd stood beside Kang Joon while Yuna's world collapsed. This isn't over, Yuna mouthed silently. But it was. They both knew it. As the agents escorted Juno and Yuna out, the gallery erupted in whispers. Phones appeared. Photos were taken. The story was already spreading through Manhattan's elite. Kang Juno arrested for smuggling. Tried to frame his own cousin. The Ice King wins again. June turned to the crowd, his expression composed. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. It seems my cousin was involved in activities I was not aware of. Kang Industries has cooperated fully with Interpol to ensure justice is served. Please, continue enjoying the exhibit. All of these pieces have been legally obtained and properly documented. Just like that, he took control of the narrative. Made himself the victim who'd been betrayed by family. The honest businessman who'd helped law enforcement. The crowd bought it. Of course they did. This was how power worked. Mara watched June work the room for the next hour. Shaking hands. Accepting condolences about his betrayal by Juno. Reassuring collectors that Kang Industries was and always had been completely legitimate. She stayed close, playing her part. The cultural liaison. The educated young woman who knew nothing about conspiracy or traps or evidence being flipped. But underneath her calm exterior, her heart was pounding. Because she'd just watched Kang Joon destroy his own cousin without blinking. Watched him manipulate an international investigation. Watched him control a room full of powerful people with nothing but his voice and his reputation. This was the real Kang Joon. The Ice King. The man who operated in shadows and always won. And Mara had just become part of his world. Really part of it. At 11 p.m., the gallery finally began to empty. Mara's feet ached. Her face hurt from holding a smile for so long. Her mind was exhausted from processing everything that had happened. Come with me, June said quietly. There's something you need to see. He led her past the remaining guests, past the gallery staff cleaning up champagne glasses and catering trays, to a small private office in the back. Inside, Robert Hayes sat in a chair, looking 10 years older than he had 3 days ago. Miss Thompson, he said, standing up when she entered. His voice was hoarse. I owe you an apology. More than an apology. I tried to frame me for international smuggling, Mara finished. Yes. Robert's face crumbled. I never wanted to hurt you. I swear. I was just so deep in debt, and Juno offered to help, and I thought if I just cooperated, if I just did what he asked, everything would be okay. It's never that simple, June said from behind Mara. Is it, Robert? No, sir. Robert looked at June with something like fear. I should have come to you. Told you about the debt. Asked for help. Instead, I betrayed you. Betrayed everything you built. Yes. You did. June's voice was cold. But Miss Thompson suggested something interesting. She said everyone deserves a second chance. That desperation makes people do things they wouldn't normally do. He stepped forward. So here's what's going to happen. Your debt is cleared. All $183,000. You and your wife will relocate to Charlotte, North Carolina. I have a restaurant there that needs a manager. Someone who knows the business. Someone who understands what loyalty means now. Robert's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve ya. No. You don't. But you're getting it anyway. June's expression softened slightly. My grandmother used to say, mercy is how we prove we're better than our enemies. So take this mercy, Robert. Take your second chance. And don't waste it. Robert stood, bowed deeply. Thank you. Thank you both. As he left, Mara turned to June. You told him I suggested mercy. You did. That night when Kim told you about Robert's debt. You said, he doesn't deserve that, but your face said something else. It said, but maybe everyone deserves redemption. Mara was quiet for a moment. Then, you could have destroyed him. Exposed his gambling to his wife. Ruined his life completely. I could have, Joon agreed. But you were right. Desperation makes people do terrible things. It doesn't make them terrible people. He walked to the office window, looking out at the Manhattan night. Tonight, we won. Juno is going to prison. Yuna is facing charges as an accomplice. The smuggling operation is shut down. Kong Industries' reputation is intact. I should feel victorious. But you don't? I feel tired. Joon turned to face her. For the first time since she'd met him, she saw a real emotion in his eyes. Exhaustion. Sadness. Something almost like regret. Juno is my family. My cousin. We grew up together. And I just destroyed him. He tried to destroy you first. I know. But that doesn't make it feel better. Joon's smile was bitter. My grandmother always said power has a cost. I never understood what she meant. Now I do. Every victory, every win, every move I make costs me something. Usually it costs me people. He looked at Mara. Is that what I'm doing to you? Costing you something? Taking you from a normal life and pulling you into this world of traps and betrayals? Mara thought about that. Thought about her old life. 16-hour shifts. Crushing debt. Constant fear. Living in survival mode every single day. My old life was destroying me slowly, she said finally. This life might destroy me quickly. But at least I get to choose how I fight. Something shifted in Joon's expression. The exhaustion faded slightly, replaced by something warmer. You could still leave. Tonight, after everything you've seen. I'd understand. I'd clear your contract, make sure you're protected, give you enough money to start over somewhere safe. Is that what you want? Mara asked. For me to leave? No. The word came out quiet but firm. But what I want doesn't matter. What matters is what's best for you. Mara stepped closer to him. Close enough to see the amber flecks in his gray eyes. Close enough to smell his cologne, expensive and subtle. 2 weeks ago, you stood up when everyone else stayed seated. You defended me when it would have been easier to stay silent. You've kept every promise you've made. She touched the necklace at her throat. Strength recognizes strength, Mr. Kang. And I recognize yours. So I'm staying. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. The distance between them felt both vast and non-existent. There's something else, Joon said finally. Something I need to show you. Tomorrow. If you're willing. What is it? The answer to why I'm building all of this. The real reason I offered you a job. The thing I should have told you from the beginning. His eyes held hers. Will you trust me one more time? Mara thought about everything that had happened. The slap. The accusation. The conspiracy. The trap that had almost destroyed them both. And through it all, Kang Joon had kept his word. Had protected her. Had told her the truth even when lying would have been easier. Yes, she said. I'll trust you. Joon nodded slowly. Thank you. As they left the gallery, walking past display cases of priceless artifacts and empty champagne glasses, Mara felt the weight of her decision settling over her. She'd chosen to stay in Kang Joon's world. Chosen to keep walking this dangerous path. And tomorrow, she'd find out why. The address came by text at 9:47 a.m. Saturday morning. No context. No explanation. Just an address in Harlem and a time, 11 a.m. Mara stood outside the brownstone at exactly 11 o'clock, studying the building. It was beautiful in a quiet way. Well-maintained brick. Clean windows. Flower boxes that someone actually cared for. The kind of place that had history, weight, permanence. A small bronze plaque beside the door read, "The Hannah Kang Foundation." The door opened before Mara could knock. Kang Joon stood there, dressed casually for the first time since she'd met him. Dark jeans. A simple black sweater. He looked younger somehow. More human. "Come in," he said. The interior took Mara's breath away. Warm hardwood floors. Brick walls painted soft cream. Natural light streaming through tall windows. And everywhere, photographs. Black and white images of families, children in school uniforms, community gatherings, graduations, celebrations. "This is beautiful," Mara whispered. "It's my grandmother's legacy." Joon walked down the hallway, gesturing for her to follow. Hannah Kang. She came to America in 1967 with $10 and a jade pendant. Worked 3 jobs. Saved every penny. Built our family from nothing. He stopped in front of a large photograph. A Korean woman in traditional hanbok, standing in front of a small shop. Her face was lined with age and hard work, but her eyes were fierce. Proud. "She died 5 years ago," Joon continued. "Left me everything. The business. The empire. The connections. But her last request was different from all the others." "What did she ask for?" "She asked me to remember where we came from. To use the power she'd built to help people who were where she once was. Struggling. Working multiple jobs. Trying to give their children a better future." Joon opened a door at the end of the hall. Inside was an office, but not like his corporate space at Kong Tower. This was warmer. More personal. Walls covered in children's drawings and thank you letters. A desk piled with applications and files. "The Hannah Kang Foundation," he said. "We provide scholarships for children of immigrants. Education funding. Job training. Community resources. Everything my grandmother wished she'd had when she first arrived." Mara walked slowly around the office, reading the letters on the walls. "A thank you for the scholarship. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. A because of your program, my mother could get job training and now she doesn't have to work 3 jobs anymore. A my little brother can go to school now. Real school. Thank you." The last one made Mara's throat tight. She thought about Isaiah. About how close they'd come to losing everything. "How long has this been running?" she asked. 3 years. Since my grandmother died. We've helped 847 families so far. But I want to expand. Do more. Reach more people." Joon turned to face her. "That's where you come in." He walked to the desk, pulled out a folder. "I need someone to run this. Someone who understands what these families are going through because they've lived it. Someone who can talk to a single mother working 2 jobs and actually understand her. Someone who can look at a kid from Brooklyn and see potential instead of problems." He held out the folder. "I'm offering you this, Mara. Director of the Hannah Kang Foundation. $180,000 salary. Full benefits. Complete autonomy to run it however you think is best." Mara took the folder with trembling hands. Opened it. Inside were organizational charts, budgets, plans for expansion. And at the bottom, a contract with her name already typed in. "This was always the real job," she said quietly. "The cultural liaison position, that was just a test," Joon admitted. "I needed to see if you could handle the business world. If you could navigate wealthy collectors and elite society without losing who you are. If you could spot fraud and conspiracy and stay calm under pressure." He stepped closer. "You passed every test, Mara. You stayed honest when lying would have been easier. You stayed loyal when running would have been smarter. You saw the trap Juno set and you came to warn me instead of saving yourself. So the gallery opening, the smuggling conspiracy, all of Theta was real. Juno really was trying to destroy me. That wasn't a test. That was an actual threat. Joon's expression darkened. But how you handled it told me everything I needed to know. You're exactly who my grandmother would have wanted running her foundation. Mara looked down at the contract. At the number. At the job description. Director of Operations. Responsible for scholarship programs, community outreach, family services, education initiatives. Everything she'd ever wanted to do. Everything she'd dreamed about when she was a college freshman before her parents died and survival became more important than dreams. Why me? She asked. You could hire someone with experience. Someone with degrees in nonprofit management. Someone who knows what they're doing. Because experience isn't the same as understanding. Joon's voice was firm. I've interviewed 20 people for this position. All of them had impressive resumes. All of them said the right things. But when I asked them what poverty felt like, what it meant to choose between medicine and rent, they gave me textbook answers. He paused. You know what it feels like. You've made those choices. You've lived in that world. That's worth more than any degree. Mara's eyes burned. She blinked rapidly, refusing to let the tears fall. There's one condition, Joon said. Your brother. Isaiah. I want him involved too. Mara's head snapped up. What? We have deaf families who come to the foundation. Kids who need advocates who understand what they're going through. Isaiah could be that. A youth ambassador. Paid position. Part-time so it doesn't interfere with school. Joon pulled out another folder. He'd help with outreach. Teach other kids sign language. Show them that being deaf doesn't mean being less. Everything my grandmother did for me is showing me I could build something despite my immigrant background. Isaiah could do that for deaf kids. Mara's hands shook as she took the second folder. Opened it. Inside was a contract for Isaiah. Youth ambassador. $25,000 annually. Part-time. Flexible schedule. You've thought of everything, she whispered. I've been planning this for 6 months, Joon admitted. Since the day you applied to work at Lotus House. I saw your application. Saw your story. Single guardian raising a deaf brother. Working multiple jobs. Drowning in medical debt but still putting him in the best school you could afford. He smiled slightly. I thought, that's exactly who grandmother would have chosen. So you hired me. Put me through all of Thesa. To see if you could handle it. The business world is brutal, Mara. If you couldn't survive 2 weeks with Yuna and Juno trying to destroy you, you couldn't handle running a foundation that deals with desperate people every single day. Joon's eyes held hers. But you didn't just survive. You thrived. You learned everything Taemin taught you. You spotted Juno's conspiracy. You made the choice to warn me instead of running. You even suggested mercy for Robert when you could have demanded revenge. He gestured around the office. This is what you were meant for. Not serving tables. Not survival mode. This. Helping people. Leading them. Showing them a way out. Mara looked at the walls covered in thank you letters. At the files stacked on the desk, each one representing a family that needed help. At the photograph of Hannah Kong with her fierce, proud eyes. If I say yes, Mara said slowly, what happens to us? To, whatever this is between us? The question hung in the air. Joon was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he admitted finally. I've never let anyone get this close before. Never trusted anyone this quickly. It's unfamiliar territory. He stepped closer. Close enough that Mara could feel the warmth radiating from him. What I do know is this, I respect you. I trust you. And every day, I find myself wanting to tell you things I've never told anyone. Wanting your opinion. Wanting to see your face when you're thinking through a problem. His hand came up slowly, gently touched the jade and silver necklace at her throat. I don't know if that's love. I don't know what we're building here. But I know I don't want to stop building it. Mara's breath caught. And if I take this job? If I say yes to running the foundation? Then we figure it out as we go. Professional. Personal. All of it. No more tests. No more games. Just honesty. Just honesty, Mara repeated. She looked down at the contracts in her hands. At the numbers that would change everything. At the job that would let her help hundreds of families like hers. She thought about Mama Grace. About what she would say if she were here. A baby girl, God doesn't give you opportunities by accident. When a door opens, you walk through it with your head high and your faith strong. Where do I sign? Mara asked. Joon's smile was genuine. Warm. The kind of smile that transformed his whole face from ice to something almost like joy. Right here. They spent the next 2 hours going over the foundation's operations. Current programs. Expansion plans. Families on the waiting list. Budget allocations. Mara's mind absorbed it all like a sponge. This was what she was meant for. This made sense in a way nothing else in her life ever had. At 1:30 p.m., the front door burst open. Mara. Isaiah's voice, too loud the way deaf people's voices sometimes were when they got excited. Your text said to come to this address but you didn't say why and I thought maybe you were in trouble. He stopped short when he saw Kang Joon. His hands flew up in sign language. Oh. Sorry. I didn't know you had company. Isaiah, Mara signed back, smiling. There's someone I want you to meet officially. This is Kang Joon. He owns Lotus House. And this foundation. Isaiah studied Joon carefully. The way deaf people did, reading every micro-expression, every tiny shift in body language. Then his hands moved deliberately. You're the man who defended my sister. Who stopped that woman from hurting her. Joon looked at Mara. What's he saying? Mara translated, her voice soft. Joon turned back to Isaiah. He didn't know sign language, but he spoke slowly, clearly, so Isaiah could read his lips. Your sister is remarkable. Brave. Honest. The kind of person who makes the world better just by being in it. Isaiah's eyes widened. He looked at Mara, then back at Joon. His hands moved quickly, excitedly. What did he say? Joon asked. He said. Mara's voice caught. He said you have kind eyes. That's rare for powerful men. And that if you make my sister happy, he'll accept you. But if you hurt her, he knows where you work. Joon laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was so unexpected, so genuine, that both Mara and Isaiah stared. Tell him I accept those terms, Joon said. And tell him I have something to show him. He pulled out the second folder. Handed it to Mara to give to Isaiah. Isaiah opened it slowly. His eyes went wide as he read. Looked up at Mara, then at Joon, then back at the contract. Is this real? He signed. Youth ambassador? Me? Yes, Mara signed back, her hands shaking with emotion. He wants you to help other deaf kids. Show them they can do anything. Isaiah's face crumpled. Happy tears streaming down his cheeks. He rushed forward and hugged Joon so suddenly that Taemin, who'd been standing silently in the corner the whole time, actually moved to intervene. Joon waved him off. Put his arms around Isaiah and held him while the 13-year-old cried into his expensive sweater. Mara watched them, her own tears finally falling. This man, this Ice King who never showed emotion, was holding her brother and letting him cry. Was offering them both a future. Was giving them the chance Mama Grace had always prayed for. When Isaiah finally stepped back, his hands moved in sign language again. What did he say? Joon asked. He said. Mara could barely get the words out. He said Mama Grace was wrong. Angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they have gray eyes and expensive suits. Joon's smile was soft. Tell him his grandmother would be proud of him. And tell him I have grandmothers too. I understand what it means to honor them. As Isaiah wiped his tears and started exploring the office, reading all the letters on the walls, Joon turned to Mara. This is what I wanted to show you. Not just the foundation. But this. What we can build together. The lives we can change. He took her hand. The touch was gentle, careful, asking permission. So what do you say, Mara Thompson? Ready to change the world? Mara looked at Isaiah studying the photographs. At the office full of thank you letters. At the contracts that would secure their future. At the man who'd seen her getting slapped and stood up when everyone else stayed seated. She squeezed his hand. Yes. I'm ready. 6 months later. The Hannah Kang Foundation had changed. What was once a single brownstone in Harlem was now 3 buildings. The original location plus 2 adjacent properties that Joon had purchased and renovated. More office space. More classrooms. More room for the families that lined up outside every morning, hoping for help. Mara stood at the window of her office, watching the sun rise over the city. Her office. Still strange to think those words. She had a desk with her name on it. A team of 6 people who reported to her. A budget of $12 million annually. And 1,847 families who'd been helped in just 6 months. The number still made her dizzy. Her phone buzzed. A text from Isaiah. A morning meeting with the new deaf students at 9. Don't be late, boss lady. Mara smiled. Isaiah had transformed in 6 months. Grown 3 inches. Gained confidence she'd never seen in him before. He was thriving as youth ambassador, teaching sign language classes, mentoring younger deaf kids, showing them they could do anything. Last week, he'd convinced 3 deaf teenagers to apply for college scholarships. All 3 got accepted. Mama Grace would have been so proud. Another text came through. This one from Joon. A board meeting at 11. I'm bringing lunch. Korean or Italian? Mara typed back, a Korean. Always Korean. His response was immediate, a good answer. She touched the jade and silver necklace at her throat. 6 months, and she still wore it every single day. Still felt Mama Grace's presence in the cool metal. Still drew strength from 4 generations of women who'd survived impossible things. A knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. Come in. Taemin entered, carrying a folder. In 6 months, he'd gone from being Joon's bodyguard to being the foundation's head of security. Turned out the man who could read a room for threats in 3 seconds was also excellent at reading people for sincerity. Morning, Miss Thompson. We have 5 new applications that need your review. 3 look legitimate. 2 are. He paused. Questionable. Questionable how? One family's financial documents don't match their story. The other has connections to a loan shark operation in Queens. Could be desperate. Could be a setup. Mara took the folder. I'll review them this afternoon. Schedule interviews with all 5. Let's hear their stories before we decide. Taemin nodded. You're giving them the benefit of the doubt. Everyone deserves that. At least once. Mara smiled. Besides, you'll be in the room. If something feels wrong, I trust you to catch it. Yes, ma'am. As Taemin left, Mara thought about how far they'd all come. Taemin, opening up. Robert, thriving in Charlotte with his fresh start. Even Franklin, who'd sent a letter last month thanking her for suggesting mercy. And Yuna, well. Yuna was facing charges as an accessory to Juno's smuggling operation. Her trial was set for next month. Her social circle had evaporated. Her reputation was destroyed. Mara didn't feel good about that. But she didn't feel bad either. Some people made their own beds. At 10:45 a.m., Joon arrived. He walked into her office carrying bags from their favorite Korean restaurant, looking every bit the Ice King in his designer suit and perfectly styled hair. But when he saw her, his expression softened. The way it always did now when they were alone. "Busy morning?" he asked, setting the food on her desk. "Always. We had 12 families show up without appointments. All desperate. All with heartbreaking stories. We squeezed them all in. You can't save everyone, Mara. I can try." She opened the containers, breathing in the smell of bulgogi and kimchi. "How was your morning?" "Tedious. Budget meetings. Investor calls. The legitimate side of business is remarkably boring." Joon sat across from her, loosening his tie. "I miss the days when we were plotting to take down smuggling conspiracies." Mara laughed. "You do not." "Maybe a little. At least that was interesting." They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. This had become their routine. Lunch together twice a week. Sometimes they talked business. Sometimes they just sat quietly, enjoying each other's presence. Their relationship had evolved slowly over 6 months. Carefully. Both of them aware that they were building something important and fragile. They'd gone on actual dates. Dinners where they weren't discussing foundation business. A concert. A museum exhibit. Even a comedy show where Joon had laughed so hard he'd actually cried. They'd kissed. 3 weeks ago, on the roof of Kang Tower under the stars. Joon had cupped her face gently, asked, "May I?" and waited for her nod before closing the distance between them. It had felt like coming home. But they were taking it slow. Both damaged by their pasts. Both learning to trust in ways that didn't come naturally to either of them. "I have something for you," Joon said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small box. Black velvet. Expensive looking. Mara's heart stopped. "Juna. It's not what you think," he said quickly, reading her panic. "Open it." Inside the box was a key. Small, silver, ordinary looking. "A key?" Mara asked. "To my apartment. The penthouse at Kang Tower." Joon's voice was careful. Uncertain in a way she rarely heard from him. "I want you to have access. To come and go as you please. No questions asked." He paused. "I've never given anyone a key before. Not even Yuna when we were together. But I want you to have one. Because..." He struggled to find words. "Because I trust you. In my space. In my life. In all of it." Mara stared at the key. Such a small thing to represent something so enormous. "This is a big step," she said softly. "I know. And if it's too soon, if you're not Riyadhya. I'm ready." Mara picked up the key, closed her fingers around it. "I'm just surprised. 6 months ago, I was serving you soju. Now I'm holding a key to your home. 6 months ago, I was alone." Joon's eyes held hers. "Now I'm not. And I don't want to go back to being alone." Mara stood, walked around the desk. Joon rose to meet her. "I love you," she said simply. The first time either of them had said it out loud. "I don't know when it happened exactly. Maybe the moment you stood up. Maybe when you defended me. Maybe when you showed me this foundation and I saw who you really are underneath all the ice." She touched his face gently. "But I know I love you. And I know I trust you. And I know that whatever we're building here, I want to keep building it." Joon's eyes closed. When he opened them, they were bright with emotion. "I love you too," he said, his voice rough. "I've never said that to anyone before. Never felt it before. But I feel it now. Every time I see you. Every time you smile. Every time you do something impossibly kind or brave or real." He kissed her. Soft and slow and deep. A promise. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Joon pressed his forehead to hers. "Move in with me," he whispered. "You and Isaiah. I have more than enough space." He could have his own wing. His own everything. And you wouldn't have to commute from Brooklyn. And I could wake up seeing your face every morning. Mara pulled back slightly. "That's a big ask." "I know. Isaiah would need to think about it. This is his decision too." "Of course. And we'd need ground rules. Boundaries. This is still new Anda." "Mara." Joon smiled. "I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet anyway. I'm just asking you to share my space. Try it. See if it works. And if it doesn't, no harm done." "Not yet?" Mara raised an eyebrow. "So eventually?" "Eventually." Joon's smile widened. "When the time is right. When we're both ready. When I've earned it." Mara kissed him again. Softer this time. Sweeter. "I'll talk to Isaiah," she said. "But I think he'll say yes. He likes you. Trusts you. And honestly, he's been asking when we're going to make it official." Smart kid. They returned to their lunch, hands intertwined across the desk. And for a few minutes, the world outside disappeared. No foundation responsibilities. No business empires. No past traumas. Just two people who'd found each other in the chaos and decided to hold on. At 2 p.m., Mara had a meeting with a new family. Single mother, 2 kids, drowning in debt after a medical emergency. The story was heartbreakingly familiar. "Mrs. Chen," Mara said gently as the woman sat across from her, hands trembling. "Tell me what you need." And for the next hour, Mara listened. Really listened. The way she wished someone had listened to her 2 years ago when Mama Grace was dying and the bills kept coming and the world kept crushing down. By the end of the meeting, Mrs. Chen had a scholarship for both her kids. A job training program enrollment. And 3 months of rent assistance while she got back on her feet. The woman cried. Held Mara's hands and cried. "How can I ever repay you?" she whispered. "You don't," Mara said. "You pay it forward. When you're stable again, when you're back on your feet, you help someone else who's drowning. That's how it works." Mrs. Chen nodded, wiping her tears. "I will. I promise." After she left, Mara sat in her office and let herself feel it. The weight and the lightness of it. The responsibility and the joy. This was what Mama Grace had prayed for. This was what 4 generations of strong women had survived for. So that Mara could be here, in this moment, changing lives. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Isaiah. "A3 student signed up for the robotics program. And Mr. Kang says we can use his building's makerspace for practice. This is amazing." Then one from Joon. I told Isaiah about the moving in idea. He said, and I quote, "Finally. I thought you'd never ask. So I think you have your answer." Mara laughed out loud. Of course Isaiah was already on board. The kid had been dropping hints for months about how Mr. Kang's building probably has better Wi-Fi, and wouldn't it be cool to live somewhere with a doorman? She looked around her office. At the thank you letters covering the walls. At the photographs of families they'd helped. At the jade and silver necklace glinting in the afternoon sun. And she thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago. Exhausted. Desperate. Getting slapped in a restaurant and almost arrested for theft. That woman would never have believed this was possible. But Mama Grace would have. Mama Grace had always known. A strength recognizes strength, baby girl. And when it does, miracles happen. The end. Epilogue. Now look, if this story did something for you, if you felt Mara's struggle or saw yourself in her journey, if you believed in second chances and the power of real love, this is your moment. I put my heart into these stories. Real time. Real emotion. Real belief that sometimes the impossible becomes possible when the right people find each other. And all I'm asking is simple. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, just tap that button. It takes 1 second, but it means the world to me. Smash that subscribe button right now. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Tell me if you believed in Mara and Joon. Tell me if you've ever had someone stand up for you when everyone else stayed seated. Tell me what your grandmother taught you about strength. Drop those comments. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next story. Miss V, signing off.